I saw your Suburban going through town. Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's driving. Today he was driving the Jeep. Yeah. Where were you at? I've been there. You talk about the other thing we did see. Know about it.
have one? This is my friend Canton from my church. Congenial to everybody.
I got another approach. Okay. I got the program. I got the phone. I'll bounce it.
We're all doing our best, praying or singing or doing cooking or something. Here's our other friend.
I'm going to leave. What you bringing? If I can have your attention, please, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Will please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. Remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Those who are present here, bless those who are en route, and Father, we ask that you can continue to give us traveling mercy as we leave this particular destination and route back to our homes. Father, we ask that you bless this meeting. We continue to ask that you bless those who are less fortunate than we are, to bless the sick and the afflicted. And Father, let us be mindful that we are here to do the business of the city. So please let all that we say and do be non-objectful in thy sight. Father, please continue to bless our military family and personnel wherever they may be. And again, Father, please be one in the midst of this meeting.
the agenda. I believe we wanted to actually move one item, which would be item 7D, which is request to waive stage fee for the FCA event, and discuss it right after we have the presentation of the proclamation. So we have a motion to approve with that amendment only. Any others? We have a second? Sure. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Okay. I'd like to welcome all of our guests and visitors tonight. We have a good group here. We provide some information, and hopefully we get some information too as the evening goes on. This time I would like to read the proclamation that we have to be presented to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Brendan Roberts could not be here. He's out of town right now, but he's doing some good work, and his dad will accept this on his behalf. And I will read it. It says, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes has been challenging coaches and athletes on the professional, college, high school, junior high, and youth levels since 1954 to use the powerful medium of athletics to impact the word for Jesus Christ. And whereas the FCA is the largest Christian sports organization in America and focuses on serving local communities by equipping, empowering, and encouraging people to make a difference for Christ. And whereas in 2002, Oklahoma Fellowship of Christian Athletes Area Director Jeff Martin prayed about what to do with his heartfelt frustration regarding the temptation of spiritual battles facing our more than spectator generation youth. God led him to 2 Chronicles 34 for the answer. King Josiah, an influential teenager, gathered his people and challenged them to read God's Word. As a result, they challenged their culture. When a team is losing, they go back to the fundamentals. They don't make their game plan more complex. That was God's answer to Jeff's prayer. Bring kids back to the fundamentals of the game plan of life. His Word. And whereas on October the 12th, 2011, parents, students, and coaches will come together on their local high school athletic fields for an event called Fields of Faith, which is a peer-to-peer ministry event where students invite their own classmates and teammates to hear fellow students share their testimonies. Be challenged to read the Word of God and follow Jesus Christ. And whereas students combined with leadership team will work together to run the event. The leadership team will work to form partnerships and churches in the area regardless of denomination. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Canton declare Wednesday, October the 11th, 2011 as FCA Day in the City of Canton. Mr. Roberts, I'll give this to you. Brandon, we missed him, and congratulations. That should be a compliment, right? I'm sorry about that. I knew that. Okay, I'm sorry, Jack.
Going along with that, I had asked, because this concerns the Fields of Faith event as well. They had asked us to use the stage, and I'm going to make a motion that we waive the fee that we normally charge for that, because it is such a good event. It is a good Christian event that all the students are going to be involved in. And we were actually at that event last year, and it drew in thousands of people. And we understand this year that it will be even larger. So we invite all of you to participate if you can. But I'd like to make that motion that we waive that fee.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. All members voted for the motion. Thank you, James. We have one other presentation here, a proclamation, which I will read. And I believe we have a gentleman here who's going to. I believe this is the one, the Red Ribbon Week. So let I'm just going to read this, and I'm going to come down here so you can be with us here. Okay. You want to come up here? Okay. It says, whereas alcohol and drug abuse in this nation have reached epidemic stages, and whereas it is imperative that visible, unified prevention education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign offers citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, no use of illegal drugs, no illegal use of legal drugs, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in every community in America during Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd to 31st, and whereas businesses, government, parents, law enforcement, media, medical institutions, religious institutions, schools, senior citizens, service organizations, and youth will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing and displaying red ribbons during this week-long campaign. And whereas the City of Canton further commits its resources to ensure the success of the Red Ribbon Campaign. Now therefore be it resolved, the Mayor and Council of the City of Canton to hereby proclaim October 23rd to 31st as Red Ribbon Week and encourages its citizens to participate in drug prevention education activities, not only during Red Ribbon Week, but all year long, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free City of Canton, Georgia. Those were the good parts of the meeting. Now we get down to some other stuff. We currently have, at this point, a 10-minute public input period, and we have had a number of people to sign up to speak. And the first person is Rebecca Greer.
Mayor Hodges, City Council. My name is Rebecca Greer. I live in the River Green community as a City of Canton resident. I'm representing 91 single-family homes on Jamie Drive, Patty Place, Jessica Way, and Genevieve Drive. Our residents currently have full City of Canton police, fire, and emergency services, as well as city water, storm, sewer, and garbage services. Our streets are through streets connecting the accepted public city street, River Green Avenue, and Riverbend Way serving Knox Elementary School. We experience a considerable amount of through traffic, and we are asking that the City Council consider accepting our streets as full city streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Greer.
Clear for streets specifically.
You have the list. Could you get a copy of that? Okay. Amy Godwin, I forgot how you pronounce your last name.
Emily Godin.
Okay. And Tony Brown.
Tony is actually not here right now.
Okay.
If you want, I can wait until he gets here, or I can do it myself.
You do whatever you want to do.
Okay, cool.
Be fine.
Okay, well, good evening, Mayor and City Councilmen and women. I am here today to represent Canton Heights. We are wanting to be annexed into the city. We feel that this would benefit the city by allowing builders to come into our neighborhood, and since it's not completely built out, we would make the neighborhood more popular to new residents to come move in, so it would bring in extra revenue for the city. We currently also have city water and trash and everything that goes along with that package. We do have private lights that we have to rent out and pay for on a monthly basis, as well as our street signs that we have to pay for, things like that. So we are just proposing that we be annexed into the city.
Okay, you're not actually wanting to be annexed, are you? Because you're already in the city, right? What you really want is to make sure the streets are accepted by the city.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So you not be privately on the streets.
Understand. Right. Is everybody clear on that? Okay. Thank you. Watson.
I'm representing Diamond Ridge, both the enclave and the original Diamond Ridge. We are located in between Butterworth and Ridge Road. Right now, the streets are considered private, but it is a constant source of through traffic. I know people who cut through to go to make a quicker access to Highway 20. It's much quicker than going on Highway 5, so we get a lot of traffic. We actually had a head-on collision in our neighborhood with a teenager earlier this year from someone cutting through the neighborhood and speeding. So not only do people cut through, but they speed at excessive speed. My home is personally on the main thoroughfare of Diamond Ridge Avenue, and it's a little bit of a blind hill. I have 2 small children. I am very, very concerned about the play in the front yard. It is a constant source of people coming through, and we even have our own radar detectors in the neighborhood, and people have been going through at 50 plus miles an hour. So it's a risk to our children. We've already had accidents, and we really want to appeal to have the road be made public. And as well, we also have an issue with the road not being finished after the building not completely built out. There was a bond on the road to be completed. I don't know where that money is. I mean, if the bond was purchased, that's what it should have been used for. So we're not sure where the location of that money is, and that's our main concern. And we were also denied previously to be able, or we were told, not to put speed bumps in the neighborhood. I believe this is something that our neighborhood would be willing to purchase, but if we're not allowed to, then I don't know how we can resolve our own problem without help. So we can't put up additional stop signs, speed bumps, or whatever. I feel like our hands are tied. So.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure on private streets, but I would assume they could do whatever they wanted to if it was private. Yeah, but okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Stephen Lewin, James Magers.
I'm the president of Prominence Court Subdivision off of Prominence on Parkway. Here we got petitions, but we're in the same situation with the private streets. Within 7 years, we're having problems with the cost of maintenance of the streets. We pay everyone a little less than 300 houses pay city taxes, and we're not getting the same benefit as anybody else. Problem with law enforcement, they're not able to enforce laws, stop signs. People run stop signs and getting teenager activity at our pool. It's very hard to enforce city laws when the police come in and they can't, their hands are tied. We ask that our streets become part of the city of Canton public streets as soon as possible. Avoid any further misfortune.
Okay. Thank you very much. Carol Knight.
I've been here before speaking to the council about the same issue you hear from the people ahead of me about street being made, city streets. Our streets are curved, they're sidewalks, they're gutters, they've got the sewer. We don't, we're not asking you to fix our streets, we're asking you to make those public streets because that's how they are used. We put up stop signs, we put up one-way signs and things to help control the traffic. But we would like to, we are a community of 84 families, and the original plan for that community was to have less homes and more streets. And that's been, in my search over the last 5 years, something I never could find all the records for. But that was meant to be private. They took away the private. There is no gate on it. And the row of homes down the center was supposed to be single. Now it's double. We've complied with all the things that would be part of a city street except the exact width of that. So we're not asking you to fix it. We're asking you to incorporate it into the city streets.
and we are a development of, we don't like to call ourselves seniors, but I'm one of the younger people in the neighborhood. So I think it's an attitude more than it is a number, but our residents have been supportive of the city. They're active in their attention to the elections and voting and what goes on in the city, and we bring a fair amount of positive things to the city of Canton, and this is something we're requesting.
Thank you. That's all we have there. I think regarding those streets, I'm going at probably the next meeting, or maybe even before I'll notify the council. Maybe I'll probably appoint a 3-member council committee to take a look at this situation, because we've talked about this for the last, I don't know how many years back, but I've been here when we talked about it for the last 3 and 4 years or so. And you know, there's some things that happened some years ago regarding development that shouldn't have happened. There were bonds that were there, and then they weren't there, and then they were either never there, or they just got lost and never renewed. You know, developers at times, they were there and then they were gone, and you know, without a bond, there wasn't anything the city could do in that respect, other than, you know, prevent them from doing anything else in the future. But we need to, ultimately, my feeling is we're going to have to bite the bullet, and while we could never fix all the streets that need to be fixed and finished in a very short period of time, we're going to have to bite the bullet and do something with this situation, and hopefully we have picked up more recently, and we're not, even without the development, our regs now are going to prevent this from happening in the future, I hope, and that we are maintaining good records on bonds and so forth. And when it looks like the bond is expiring, you know, we're going to make sure we got another one out there. So anyway, I will do that, and probably the next few days, appoint a committee to take a look at that and move forward. Mr. Gresham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the citizens that came forward with these issues. And I got to tell you, I had brought this forward as a resolution last August, and did not receive any support. And I felt it was time for us to take action. And I will bring that resolution in 2 weeks to the next council meeting. And I'm looking forward to get it approved and passed, because these citizens are paying their taxes. They also pay, when they bought their home, the impact fees and the building fees. And we're looking at 700 residents. 700. You take that times an average of the impact fees, and you'll see that $1.5 million that was collected by the city to serve the citizens. And I don't think it's going to require, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, a committee. I think what it deserves consideration by this council to think it justified for the injustice that was put on them when they came into this city thinking they were full-blown citizens, and they found out that they are not. Unacceptable, and they'll be on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, but I do, and if it gets taken care of before a committee actually looks at it in detail, then you know, that's fine. But I do think we need a program as to how it would evolve, I guess. In other words, exactly what percentage of the residents, does it take 100%, does it take 70% or whatever in order to achieve that? You know, some people have a right to live in a private subdivision. They've got a right. If they're all there and they want it to be there, then, you know, they have a right to be there. And they have a right to have a gate on that subdivision if they wanted to have a gate. But if there's 80 or 90% of the people in there that want something else, then, you know, perhaps whatever that figure is, we may want to look at that and go from there.
Mr. Mayor, this 700 roughly did not know they were buying private streets. There was no gates, there was no information passed to those residents when they were buying their homes. I understand the point on a private street that maybe have 6 or 7 homes on it, and 2 people want to bring in that street, then we've got to have 100% of those homes on that particular street. But in the HOAs, that's who was talking. That's the situation. So we'll look at it.
Okay, we will do that. Thank you. Okay, under old business, the first reading of the amendment to the ethics ordinance, which we talked about at our last meeting, and basically this is one that we have to talk about. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, then we're going to consider that as the first reading. It is basically that one section basically is deleted, which basically refers to the employment, I guess, of city employees by council members or the mayor. It would prohibit that even if you pay them. And basically, my feeling on that is that the real problem is in asking, not so much in working or paying, but in asking. It puts them in a difficult position of really not being able to maybe be totally honest or give their full, clear concurrence to that, in that they want to please those that supervise them. Anyway, we'll consider this as the first reading. It will come up again in the next meeting. The city clerk will be advertising that in between now and the next council meeting. The cemetery ordinance is attached to your information. Does anyone have any comments or questions about that?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Sure.
What I would propose to do is have the first reading of this be at the next meeting. So this is just putting it out there. Any comments anybody has, this was worked off of the City of Rome ordinance, so any questions, any comments are welcome.
Could you give us sort of a general synopsis? I know you can't tell us everything that's in it, but
Well, basically to put some regulation, we have none now, and it's sort of, there are individuals, Mr. Cato in particular, who've been bearing the brunt of the responsibility of dealing with this, and so it's putting some regulation in place. Most of it deals with the legalities of the ownership, and one of the comments I'm hearing is, oh, we don't want them to own it, because it says ownership of the space, but if you read it, it only gives them a right to be buried there. They're not going to own the land. So that, it clarifies that as we sell, if we're going to sell plots in the future. It has some regulation about hours and what's required. One of the things that I need to add, Mr. Taylor suggested, was, for instance, allowing temporary markers for a certain period of time. And right now, that's not in there. So it's just regulations and rules for the cemetery.
how is it actually governed exactly on this?
The way I did it, there's all subject to questions and comments and change, but the way I did it was, the City of Rome has a cemetery superintendent, so that's the way they called it. And I just had to, an employee designated by the city manager would be the superintendent, who would then be in charge of the cemetery. One of the differences between Rome and Canton, Rome has equipment dedicated to the cemetery. They have more cemeteries and bigger ones. And so I had to take out a lot of what they had, because the city won't be able to do that. You don't have the wherewithal. Actually, bury people or dig up graves or any of that.
Does this require any of the funds from the sales of those to go back into the cemetery as far as perpetual maintenance and whatever?
No.
No.
It would. I don't think. I say that very confidently as if I remember. But
Mr. Dyer, Mr. Cato and I met with the individuals from Rome on last Tuesday, and it could be worded in such a way that there could be funds that we receive from the sale of plots that could be used for care of the facility. And I had spoke with Mr. Dyer today, and I hopefully that Mr. Cato and I can get with him regarding these matters, and when we come back for the first reading, everything will be a little bit more
The question I have is, if we adopt this proposal and then we have to name the superintendent, so we have to have someone responsible for it. But you just said we don't have the facility to bury anybody. How do people get buried?
The funeral homes do it. So,
they do?
Yeah, it authorizes the funeral homes to do the work. The superintendent would be the person sort of to answer. The way it works now is Mr. Cagle is acting as the superintendent. If funeral homes, somebody wants to be buried there, they go to him. He decides if they are the person who should be allowed to be buried in there. So you have a non-city employee making these calls now. So that's what the superintendent would do.
And then we have to maintain it. So if there's a newly buried plot there, we have to plant some sod in there or do something to make it acceptable to the rest of it. So there's an expense that the city's going to incur, which may or may not be covered by the sale of the plot.
And you may or may not be expending that money now. I mean, people are being buried in there now. The idea though is not set up like a private cemetery where you have to have a fund because you're the city, and the idea is you'll be here forever.
Yes. Discussion that we had a couple of months back in reference to the cemetery was that we were going to look at a couple of different alternatives. One, selling it outright. Therefore, I think coming forward with an ordinance is kind of jumping the gun. I'd like to see that committee was supposed to come forward with possibility of selling it. What would we sell it for? As Mr. Rush pointed out, we don't have the funds to support the cemetery. We can make some money off of it, but that's not going to be taking care of all the other areas of the cemetery. So I would like to see those steps taken first before we go worrying about an ordinance.
I think we can do them both at the same time. Because my concern is that you have a cemetery and you need some regulations, even if it only lasts 2 months. But we're talking about not adopting this till November, so perhaps all those questions can be answered between now and the second meeting in November. I only want the first reading to be till the next meeting in October, and then the second reading would be in November.
Okay, so what you're saying is we will have information in reference to selling?
I don't know that, but I think we could.
But
It's
we
time
have
wise.
talked about that. So
I know that there have been costs, some prices worked up. Camille had mentioned to me that she had sort of a price schedule, so you have some idea of that. I think the only thing to be missing, if I remember right from our conversations, was just approaching funeral homes and see if anybody would want to buy them. Because the options were selling out the whole cemetery, selling out all the lots, sort of wholesaling them to the funeral home, or selling them ourselves.
Well, now, there is somewhat of a market for cemeteries, no doubt. That is, honestly, that's about the highest and best use of a piece of property in which they bury 1,000 people on an acre of ground. That's hard to imagine, but that's what it is. And you think in terms of the dollars per plot times 1,000 for an acre of ground, it's pretty big thing. I've actually done appraisals on cemeteries, believe it or not. I mean, and it is, when you look at the amount of money that those do generate over time, it's quite incredible, to be honest with you. Now, whether or not that's anything this group wants to do or even think about, that's another thing. But I would I guess want to know, what is it worth? What is that cemetery worth on the open market? If indeed that's an alternative you want to look at before we did anything like that or even consider it.
Aren't there state laws that regulate the method by which municipality can dispose of real estate?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, and if you're selling it,
My point is, we can't just go to the
No, you
local
just have to
funeral home
surplus.
and say,
well, actually, cemetery lots are accepted from the lots themselves. You don't have to go through all that process. But if you were to sell the whole cemetery, you probably would.
which basically public auction, right? Or at least public offer, complete public offer. So I guess my point is, we can contact mortuary companies, but we're going to have to open it up to anybody who may have interest in it. methodical, and we.
You would either have to do an auction or solicit sealed bids. That's kind of always the cemetery, and their bodies there, so I'm not sure who else would come buy it. There's somebody that operates cemetery. They can't take the bodies out, so.
See, I just don't know that we need to be in cemetery business, actually. I just don't know if that's what.
And I put this forward because some people said, there are other people pushing it.
Yes,
Whether or not we need to be in the cemetery business, you know, that's something that needs to be resolved. But right now, we are. And we need to put some rules and regulations in place because people are actually using the cemetery and we're getting nothing. So we were in an effort to try and control just people randomly going in there and burying people because one of the tables, there have been people who have actually from outside of the city gone in there and actually buried after, and we were notified after the fact. So we're just trying to get some rules and regulations in place. We can make a decision whether or not we're going to sell it or whether or not we want to be in the cemetery business, but we just need to get something in place, some rules and regulations in place to help us control burials over there. That's all we're trying to do right now. Nothing is set in stone.
Well, I don't, you know, when I say being in business, I don't mean that we've got people who already own cemetery lots in there. And to my knowledge, they have every right in the world to utilize those, with or without our permission. Now, what I'm talking about is going out, you know, we're selling cemetery lots. And that turns into sort of a, just like anything else that we might do. That's what I was talking about before we get into that as a, quote, money making or money losing business, one or the other. We need to know a little bit more about some of the alternatives. Anyway,
I say this tongue in cheek, but we probably could develop impact fees.
That'd be the only place we could get any right now.
Okay. Me and Mr. Brush brought in a little bit of levity. I just wanted our attorney, you said who was running the program up in Rome?
Superintendent.
And he is currently, you said city manager?
No, I don't know who he is.
Dan Rogers is.
I don't even know who. I don't know anything about who Rome is.
I was just going to suggest, I told Mr. Wood that'd be nice to him tonight, but I would like to put his name in for
I thought surely you were going to point out that people were just dying to get in.
Okay, well, I guess we got that resolved, didn't we? I do think we need to look at the alternative, but we do need to proceed, I think, with the ordinance, because whether it's in place or not would not have any bearing, in my opinion, on whether or not it could be sold, actually. The next item for discussion of precious metals and gem ordinance. This is something which would basically regulate the businesses where they buy gold and precious gems, I understand. I'll be honest with you, I haven't had one single person come to me and say, we need an ordinance to regulate somebody buying gold watches or gold. Not a single one. Not one. I have had some businesses contact and say, why are you doing this? Why would you do that? And it doesn't really matter to me. It just seems that, citizens are over-regulated, and if there's not a problem, we need to add another regulation for somebody to enforce. So I don't know. Anybody else?
Where did this come from?
I believe it came from the police department.
The sheriff requested that we do it.
basically brought in an ordinance to tighten up what is already state law. The state law already requires gold mining, basically like a pawn shop. The issue is, the thing I just want to let you know is that as of right now, the rise of gold prices, we are seeing a high increase of thefts and burglaries because of that. We went and pulled numbers the other day. We have 87.7% of our thefts right now is because of jewelry, as of jewelry. Again, it's already state law that they have regulations on what they have to do. Basically, you have a pawn shop, one door, a jewelry store, a gold buying store, one store. The pawn shop basically does the same thing as the gold buying store, but they have the regulations that the gold buyer doesn't have. Again, they have the same regulations that they're supposed to be doing. Taking the names of the people, writing them down, taking identifications, and giving that to us for the sheriff's office. They're not doing it. We have had situations where we went in to gold buying stores and asked for this particular jewelry that they might have off that we're looking for, and one tell us no, they don't either buy it or they don't have it. We went back to the police station and called as just somebody looking for something, and subject has it. So it's not being regulated. All we're asking really is an increase of the days of what state law already requires. State law requires them to hold it for 7 days. We're requiring them to hold it for 30 days. The other thing that we're requiring is that they go through the sheriff's department, that the paperwork that they're supposed to do in state law, make them look to the ordinance through the sheriff's department. They're handling the pawn shop for us, thankfully. They're going to handle this for us too. Now, any violations will still be going through the city court, so we would not be losing any fee or any type of anything like that. It would still be going through city court.
Question.
Yes.
Roughly how many dealers are we looking at here?
4.
And I understand that our police department has a chance to look at all the other issues going.
Yes, sir.
But if you have a burglary take place, they describe to you what's missing, gold watches, necklaces, whatever, then what is the sheriff's department? How do they know you would be looking for this stuff? But how come, in this ordinance, how come we don't have the Canton Police Department as part of that, along with the Sheriff's Department?
What we do, and Lieutenant Kenyon here with the Sheriff's Department, he can explain the program that they're using. Basically, we're in somewhat saving money to these gold buyers because we have found and he has found that they're mailing in. Some of them are doing what state law requires. They're mailing in, and really, in actuality, they pay 4 cents every time they do a transaction, or they're driving to the sheriff's office to give them this information. This program that they're using, we have used it now with the pawn shop because we've had. I'm telling you, it's great. My detectives are bragging on it already. I could give a name of a possible suspect, and we can get on their side, which we're allowed to, because we're working together here. This is what we're doing is proactive policing, not reactive policing. And we can get on there and pull up a name. We can find where he's pawned certain items and what items we're possibly looking for. So it's a great. He can explain that a little bit better than I can because I don't use it. He actually handles pawn shops, and he'll be actually handling the gold buying part of it.
Well, if I understand the question, I think you were right on track. The system we currently use is an internet-based system, so it's not something that we solely have at the sheriff's office. The detectives from Canton Police Department, we've issued them passwords and usernames so they can access this system as long as they have access to the internet. So they don't rely on the sheriff's office to look something up for them. They continue with their own investigations. The only thing that the sheriff's office is doing is offering to police the dealer. We're already doing the pawn shops throughout the area. We have our own gold dealers that are in the county at large. And because this is working so well for us, we would like to see the entire county doing the same reporting procedures. I think it's a benefit to law enforcement throughout the county if they are.
And if you want to look at that code section, which is state law, is 43-37, 1 through 6 or 7. All those regulations that are basically in this ordinance, which we tighten up a little bit, is already has state law. Again, we're finding that they're not.
Well, my only thought was, if your officers go out to a crime victim, whatever, they're told what's missing, then what you're saying is because your inner locked, you'd be aware of it, of what to be looking for, so that everybody's in sync. And that was the only reason, because I know the pawn shop stuff is really fantastic, and it's really doing a great job there. So
jewelry is probably, and you have to look at their aspect of who they be. Jewelry is probably, I shouldn't say the same because you give them a little more. But jewelry is basically the easiest thing for them to get rid of. One don't have serial number. Most people don't have identified. I have a ring that basically says I love you on it. At least I can, if it got stolen, I can tell you, hey, it's got I love you on it. But jewelry, in most part, does not have any type of anything that you can identify. It's just a gold ring, a 14-karat gold ring. So you, as a thief, that's easy to get rid of. That's easy to get rid of. And it's harder for us to track you down with these little tightening on regulations, because they're moving this jewelry in and out quickly. And if they're moving it in and out quickly, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing by writing down who bought it, who they bought it from, how much they got for it, identifying marks on it, taking pictures of it. That's your ring that you have had from your great-great-grandparents that got stolen is probably going to be gone. There's nothing we can do.
I appreciate it. Thanks to the sheriff.
Yes. I'm just going to speak to the gentleman. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Lieutenant Canton.
Canton?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You had indicated that you were in hopes that all of the other municipalities within the county would buy into this. Have you approached them? And what are the other municipalities doing?
It's in progress.
For all the others. Okay. And Chief, as far as this ordinance goes, how does it differ from what the state has in place? Just give me is there any difference to what the state already has in place?
Yes, sir. The state requires daily reporting to the local law enforcement. That could be either the city police department or the sheriff's office. It requires daily reporting. Like Chief Wayne said, very few of the precious metal dealers in the county were doing that. I only have one currently in the city that does that daily. They mailed it to me. So if they do one transaction that day, it costs them 44 cents. If they do 10 transactions, then it costs whatever the amount of the paper and the envelope weighs. So they are required to report daily. The only things that we're asking that would be more stringent would be that they report electronically. They report a specific way. That they would take a photograph of the items that they are purchasing, which obviously helps in identification if things are missing or stolen, and that the customer who's selling the item leave a digital fingerprint on a digital scan. That helps us ensure that if they're, we have they present a license. Anybody can produce a fraudulent driver's license. They're fairly easy to do. Fingerprints, they can't be fake. So if we have someone that does bring stolen jewelry and we investigate that case, we make the arrest, well, that's no, sir, I didn't do that. That's not me. Well, this is your fingerprint. This is your driver's license. You were here at the store on this date with this jewelry, so get yourself something to make a better case.
Let me ask a couple of questions here. Would this apply to a retail jewelry store anywhere right here in town if they buy gold jewelry from you?
It would, right?
That would be my opinion, yes, sir.
Okay, another one, how about like an antique mall where it has dealers in it to buy and sell all this jewelry back and forth? I mean, you go in there and, you know, you buy it or sell something to them, and they go out to these estate sales and they buy that. Are they going to have to hold on to that stuff for 30 days?
If they, this would be my interpretation. Obviously, this is for you all to decide. You're the ones that have to make the final decision. But if they have a storefront and they're buying precious metals and gems, you know, for the purpose of resale or smelting, that I would think the ordinance should apply to them. How could you enforce one person doing the same activity and not another?
I'd pretty much do away with a lot of those kind of antique stuff, in my opinion. Antique, you know, where you got 50 dealers in one little shop or something, you know.
Do we have that situation here in the city?
We do, yes. Well, I guess, I'm pretty sure they're in the city. If not, they join the city.
Where they buy it. It only applies to buying.
Yes.
Well, they would have to. I mean, what if they go to Canton County to a estate sale and buy a bunch of jewelry there at that estate sale?
Well, I think that you can regulate something that occurs in Canton County, would be my opinion.
Well, let's say they go to Hickory Platte. Okay, and somebody's having a estate sale at their home. The old folks died and they left it there, and the kids are selling everything they got, you know. So somebody goes in and buys all the costume jewelry and all that other stuff that they have there. My question is, whoever buys that's going to have to keep that for 30 days, or they'll be in violation of the law.
Well, I think more of this ordinance is state law requires this as a business owner not to, and give you an interpretation of the law.
And that would be the spirit of the ordinance. I mean, we're looking to regulate the people that are in business that buy large quantities of gold, silver, precious metals. Because as Chief Williams mentioned, I don't have the statistics for the Sheriff's Office, but they've obviously had a rise in jewelry theft. We've experienced the same thing.
Kind of like copper wire, isn't it?
Sorry?
Kind of like copper wire.
Exactly.
That.
And it probably, if you're, and that's why you basically have seen all these gold buying businesses, and they're willing to stand on the sidewalk at a rise, because basically the prices, the ones that lowered back down, it's just like copper theft, you might do those business right now.
Anybody have any questions? Anybody else? Thank you very much. Informative. Okay, next item is Wood. I guess you want to have that special bid.
Mayor, before we move on, should we consider that the first reading of that ordinance?
We can consider that first reading. Okay.
You will recall that back in the spring, Council authorized us to proceed with bid solicitations on the roof of what is being generally referred to as the old sanctuary portion of this building. Mr. Patton and Mr. Crosby downstairs have worked hard with Raymond Engineering, the firm you authorized us to engage as an engineering consultant. Bids were solicited on July the 20th, so opened received on August the 15th. There were 4 bids. The low bid was Strickland Pipeline. There were initially some concerns given the fact that it just seemed unusual to have a pipeline company bidding on a roof job. As a result of that initial concern, Raymond Engineering had done some additional work and required additional documentation from and by Strickland Pipeline. And after that, the provision of that additional documentation, our engineering consultant does feel comfortable in recommending the low bidder for the project, which is Strickland Pipeline Construction, and that's in the amount of $259,900. There's some additional fees associated with that, as pointed out in your agenda report, $9,876 for project management fee, and then $22,500 for construction oversight. That's a total of approximately $292,500. That does kind of be in the form of recommendation.
And we did get references on the Strickland company?
You did, again, Ms. Rose, our engineering consultant, which is Raymond Engineering, has required that they provide bonding and provide additional documentation, and they're comfortable with that documentation and bonding provision.
And their bid was so much lower, they did have the same information that all the other companies had, correct?
There was a significant spread. Two of the bids, as I recall, were very close, and then two were not too close. The net type bid was $261,000. So
the big range between them, though.
Yeah, there is a big range between all four, but the two lowest were right together, about 1/10%.
We had all the recommendations and everything been checked out with the company. I'll make a motion to approve it.
Actually, we have to do this at the next meeting. Okay. But save it till then.
Question.
Yes.
When we were discussing this back in the spring, rooftop, they were going to, some of them were going to save it, or we were going to also have copper sheeting or something on some parts of it.
There was I don't think it was copper, but I think it was a metal roof.
Metal roof.
Right.
So we will not have an entire tile.
There will be a salvage of those tiles that can be salvaged. Yes, sir. And then those that can be replaced.
So we're not going to make the entire roof.
No, it'll go back basically like it is.
Like what mixed bag we have up there.
Yes, sir.
I have another question. Once they begin this project, do we have a time limit as to how long it's going to take?
There is a time limit. There is some concern about this coming into the winter months. But again, what we're doing, we're paying for Raymond Engineering to oversee this job. We're not. There will be a time frame, and it will be the responsibility of the construction manager to ensure that time frame is accomplished.
Okay, thank you.
What else? Mr. Rush was talking about the new fire station.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've brought this subject up before, that our fire safety is undernourished and not really. If we were to have our inspection, for our ISO inspection, we anticipate we would lose our rating. We have had a fire station in design since 2003. In talking with Chief Floyd, he indicated to me that there are some, call it frills, in the design of the fire station that add to the cost and that he feels are not necessary. So I'm looking to request that we ask the fire chief or the city manager to go back to the original designer to take out some of these frills, and also to add in the design a cistern like we have at the South Fire Station, and then to come back, and then we can go and get bids for it. We currently have property, and we have some property under discussion that we can purchase. So I'd like to look at both sides of that, and my rationalization here is I have said before that if we lose our ISO rating, everybody's property insurance will go up. And one citizen challenged me one evening, and he said, "How do you know that?" And I said, "It will happen." So I called my local insurance agent, who's in Canton, and they told me that, yes, Canton has an ISO rating of 4. I said, "What happens if it goes to 5? He said, "Your property insurance will go up $72 a year." So I would challenge everybody on this council to call their insurance agent, and every resident in Canton to call and see how much your insurance is going to go up if the ISO rating goes down. Now, if we get inspected, we have a year to, and we anticipate if we got inspected today, our rating would be decreased. But we would have a year to rectify it. So if we have at least this fire station ongoing, it would at least give us a chance to salvage that rating. Now, we have the money to build it, it's in SPLOST money, but we don't have the money to staff it. That would take a millage increase. But I think, and everybody that I've talked to, ask them, would you rather pay money to the insurance company or to the city to have fire protection like we deserve, they all say the same thing: raise the military. And the other comment that is not related to this one fire station, but he's talking to Commissioner Johnson the other day. He said that the county would like to close the fire station on 140. So if we built the Great Sky Laurel Canyon Fire Station, they could do that. Also, that we were talking about a joint fire station somewhere around the bluffs. But the issue there is, if we each supply manpower to a jointly held fire station, it's a question of different departments. Who's the boss? The question I asked, and we didn't have an answer for, is could we not deal with it in a similar way that we deal with the reservoir? One facility owns it, funds it, and staffs it rather, and the other one contributes funds towards that station. And that's a possibility that we should investigate. So all I'm asking now is that we get the drawings revised and start looking at property.
Okay. Thank you. Now, I talked to, I think we talked, or I did, maybe no one else, but some weeks and weeks ago perhaps, about the possibility of having a bond referendum after we have a complete plan for our fire department. In other words, do an assessment. Mr. Wood, I believe, has consulted with our chief, and it was my understanding they're going to be, if they haven't already, be looking at maybe having a consultant come in and tell us how many fire stations we need in the foreseeable future, and where the location should be, and what we have to have in order to meet what appears to be new ISO regulations coming out. What this would do was allow us to, in lieu of a millage increase, it would allow us to go to the citizens with a bond referendum, to be voted on perhaps at the same time as the presidential preference primary, which would be as early as March. And you mentioned, Bob, that from what I understand too, is that once we have an ISO rating, we have a year to do something about it at that time in order to avoid losing our rating. So, I mean, I would still hope that we would be looking in that direction, because, to me, if we don't do that, have to go back to a millage increase, I think we're going to end up doing one at a time for sure over quite a few years. But if we can look, and I really think, I think our program to achieve a 3 would be what our goal ought to be. What's it going to take for us to build fire stations? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? And what do we have to have money-wise in order to drop our ISO rating from 4 to 3? I mean, that's going to save money. Although it's going to cost some tax dollars too down the road, but it would ultimately save money, and it would give the citizens the opportunity to make that decision. Unlike a number of other projects that we've had that were backdoor bonds that the citizens had no choice in. So this would be their choice, and I believe that this would be a way in order for us to get enough money to do some real good all at one time. Yes, sir.
Well, if I might disagree slightly with you, if we have the money in SPLOST funds, why should we go out and borrow some? Plus the fact that, as I indicated earlier, the city of Canton's bond rating is equivalent to that of Italy, which is not very good. And even if we did get a bond rating, or bond approval, and borrowed the money for the station, we can't staff it with bond money. We have to staff it with general fund revenue. So I don't see any real reason to go for a bond for this one station, since we have $500,000 dedicated in SPLOST funds, plus I think $2 million or so for government buildings that we can use that money to build a fire station now, or begin to build a fire station now.
So the question here, in my opinion, is, or I thought we were spending most of our sales tax for debt service, and that may not be the case. If that's not the case, I would be surprised. Now, you may be talking about the new bond money, the sales tax money that's coming in. I don't know what the $2 million is. I'm not sure where that might be. But if we had the money, we should have built one a year or two ago. Why didn't we get going then? I don't understand that. In fact, we were told at one time we had the money, and once we proceeded to do the design work, site work, architectural design of the building, which quite honestly was had a lot of fluff in it, no doubt about that. Then when we went to bid on it, it was way far and beyond the amount of money that we had, and we couldn't do it. But you know, if we got the money and we got the time, let's do it right now.
The point about looking and seeing what it would take to lower our SOV, make it better. It's not lower than 4 to 3 or what you want to call it. 3's are better than 4. I was talking to Mr. Rush about this a while back, and the problem is, if the primary is in March, we're going up against the wall because we need to do a study, we need to look at the locations, identify what we need to have, and we also got to get that on that ballot for that point in time for that. And I don't think we have the time. So what we'd be doing there is trying to rush something through to make it for that March deadline.
You don't think we could do that in 6 months? You know,
truthfully?
Well, I think we got to start.
We got to start.
Money, let's do whatever we can with it.
Yeah,
that's what it's dedicated for.
I know, but we got to know when we put it on there that we're going to ask for citizens. This is what we're going to ask for.
Absolutely, you got to know that.
Yeah, so to pull that together, I don't know. And because we got it, I think we're pushing the envelope right now as far as getting on that.
There'll be another big vote in November, you know, and July.
Yeah.
So
That's fine. That's fine.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to this, I support any efforts to get these fire stations on board. And I too was in contact with Chief Floyd, and he indicated that he and Mr. Woods were looking at ISO consultants to come in and reevaluate and assess our needs, what we need to do to lower our ISO rating. But if there are monies available, I concur that we need to jump on this, take out whatever needs to be taken out, and as Mr. Rush has suggested, maybe Mr. Woods and Chief Floyd can get together. I know Mr. Woods, at every meeting we throw something else on your shoulders to do, and but if you and Chief Floyd can get together and bring us back a proposal as far as redesigns for the fire station, look at what Mr. Rush is saying about what money are available to go towards this, and if we have a site out there at Lower Canyon or wherever the site was. It's my understanding from talking to the chief that we've already lost one site, and I don't want to be putting words in his mouth, but the site we had at the Bluffs, we already lost because we didn't use it. Now, I'm not speaking out of turn now, my chief. We did lose the site there at the Bluffs.
Yes, ma'am. Had a time frame on it, and the deed has not been changed, but the verbiage in the deed did indicate that we lost it this year.
Mr. Mayor, council members, there is a recorded deed for 5 acres up at Bluffs. It did have some time limits in which activity had to take place, or it automatically reverted back to the original property owner. That 5-year time frame expired back in the spring of this year. TPA has not pressed the issue or anything, but they're aware that the 5-year time limit in that recorded deed has expired.
So let me just tell you that I don't think the bulk of this problem is identifying a site. We can identify a site. I don't think it's completely the identification of capital funds. I think we can do that between the $500,000 we've got in sales tax. Now understand, that doesn't mean we've got all that money in the bank. That's the amount that's appropriated during the life of that 6-year referendum, was $500,000. There's another
several $1 million for general government buildings. I've forgotten the exact amount. I think Mr. Dyer told us earlier in the year that could be utilized for. So I think you can identify building costs. I understand from Chief Floyd that 90 or 95% of the equipment can be deployed. Our problem is the identification of operating costs, which is about $500,000.
Okay,
That's
so
our
that's
problem.
where we're falling short, is for the operating costs.
We could
So
rent
we're the
everything
ones that
else,
come
but
up
we
with
gotta.
ideas as far as where we're gonna get the funding if we build it to operate it.
So you're convinced that the amount of money and sales tax coming in is over and above that which we need for our current debt service?
Now, current debt service or prospective debt service, if you build a new building.
Well, I'm talking about what we have now and what we're going to have for the next year's time.
I think you could identify monies. To build a building, but what that doesn't do is let us. I still think the consultant is a good idea, because I think we don't need to approach this as an island unto ourselves. We need to approach this in concert with the county. We already have automatic aid agreements with the county. There are certain areas of the city, if I understand correctly, where the county is the primary responder. Isn't that correct, Chief?
Yes, sir.
And vice versa. There are some areas of the unincorporated part of the county where the city is the first responder. We need to look at this in sort of in total and be sure that wherever we locate a station or stations, they serve the greater common good in concert with the county. And I think that's what a consultant can help us identify.
I think that does point out that really we don't really need to build a fire station until we've had that overall plan. Where does this fire station really need to be? Are we going to build it here and then find out after we get our plan that sure would have been better if we put it over here or over there or somewhere else. So I think that overall plan is essential and it needs to be moving forward. We need to move forward with it now.
I did take some time with the chief, rode around and looked at sites, and bottom line, we're going to be talking 2 stations. To get the ISO rating to where we want it, because the reservoir does not allow us to travel cheap.
We have 5 minutes to.
And to get from, if we put a station up in Laurel Canyon, we will not be able to get over to the bluffs. So we're going to have to build 2. As that stands right now. 5 minutes. Pardon me.
4 minute response time.
4 minutes.
5 miles.
I mean, it was.
It depends on what they did in January.
Yeah. So it's a big issue, and it's just not a simple build a fire station somewhere. And I think it's very important if we're going to do it, let's do it right. Let's make a total package and get what we want to accomplish.
Jack?
You say possibly 3?
I've contacted some consultants, and I've got one price in. Hopefully I'll be getting the rest of the prices in later this week or first of next week. What they will do with that, what the consultants will do, is they'll put a package together of where we are today, based on the ISO standard. All of them that I talked to are not wanting to come out until after the first of the year, because that is when they believe the new standards are coming out. ISO is not releasing these standards, so we have no idea what's going to be released. So we'll come out first of the year, but they will give us a package of where we are today. And then they will show in that package, if you want to go to a 3, this is what it will take. If you want to go to a 2, this is what it will take. And then y'all can pick out the parts that y'all want to spend the money on. I mean, it's that simple. Y'all can pull out and this is what we want to spend our money on. And then buy what you want.
Chief, is it feasible to assume that the new ISO standard will be easier than the old one? Okay. I rest my case.
One other thing I'd like to ask. Sure. Someone else asked me about if we did this by bond, if that would not be something that the taxpayers could take off their taxes rather than if they get it the other way.
It would be a property tax, yes. Not tax person.
Yeah, I know. Curious.
It depends on how you're funding the bond. If you're going to do it to a millage rate increase in property tax, yes. It's a sales tax.
Anyone else on that?
I just want to say this is something that's very important, and we need to start moving ahead as quickly as we can on this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief. Under new business, discuss the Canton Main Street connector.
That letter came to you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Is that letter in here?
That letter is in everybody's packet, and
Okay.
essentially that is a letter from DOT asking us to, we're gonna keep the Main Street project moving.
And basically what it asks is for us to concur with a schedule. If you have looked at that there, and it does have the proposed schedule for that project. Now, if you don't know what that project is, basically it is a streetscape project which kind of goes around Brown Park from the City Hall here, up East Marietta there to Archer. Back, I think it goes back down the other side of the police station and kind of up to up Church Street up to the corner there of East Main.
What it does is it aesthetically and functionally ties City Hall more into downtown than it's currently does. And it does include replacement of sidewalks as well, which we need in some of those areas.
And it does affect some of the sidewalks on the opposite side of this street, East Marietta, which, as you know, are roots of trees. We have these things just like this. You can stumble pretty easily on there, but certainly I think I would hope that they'd be able to build things around where the trees are and repair the sidewalk at the same time. Hopefully they'll have to take any down.
Excuse me, but we, is this part of the local city
Yes, it is.
initiative that we already have in place? And we're just, what?
We've already spent several $100,000 in the design process on this project. DOT, I think, Ms. Tanner, is simply because of problems they've had of over committing. I think they're simply trying to go to local governments, and on these TE grants, they're trying to say, look, we want to be sure you're still on board.
So we are still on board, right?
Well, that's what you're being asked tonight, in fact.
Yeah, they're asking us, if you read the last sentence of the second paragraph, it says, we are requesting your concurrence that the appropriate resources will be provided to meet the revised schedule. In other words, they're saying, you look at this schedule, you're committing that you will have the money available to meet that schedule.
What is this schedule different from the schedule that we had in place for our similar schedule?
I didn't bring the notes. There was a presentation made to council in April. There was a presentation made to council in April of last year that identified all those, and I have a hard copy of that. I didn't bring it with me, so I'm not sure.
Could you just, email all of us a copy of what that schedule is, and make that schedule available so we can make a comparison here?
Yeah, was there ever a schedule on that, or do you know?
I'm not sure.
I never did actually see one.
I know that this project has kind of been on hold, both through GDOT and City Council for a period of time. I could almost guarantee that this new schedule probably is an amendment from the previous one, because there have been some design changes, some variances, questions from GDOT, and that sort of thing. And they're asking the mayor and council to agree with this new schedule and move the project forward, or probably kill it.
Mr. Mayor. The city indicated our percentage of obligation to this project.
To me, that's the salient question. I don't remember the percentage. Do you remember the percentage, Ken? It was about $1.7 million project, as I recall.
GDOT in these grants, they specified 20% cash match, but at the same time, that 20% is misleading, because the original estimates for the Main Street project for construction cost was $1.7 million. The actual grant monies from GDOT is $1 million. So the city would be, on the hook, if you will, for anything in excess of that $1 million.
Well, it doesn't include, it does not include the right of way either, right? That's
Yes,
part
sir,
of it.
that would include any right of way that would have to be acquired, utility relocates. This project does include a little bit of stormwater improvements and building resurfaces.
This 80% includes the right of way, easements and land
Well,
necessary.
the city has to pay that, and they have indicated that the right of way is part of the soft grant available. We received that in email from the GDOT representatives earlier this week.
Okay. Any other questions?
No action today.
No. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. No other questions. The August financials are in your package there for your review. If you have any questions, we'll be after that. Do you have any reports? Do you have any report? Those will be glad to answer any questions. Yeah, I guess, didn't I? Yeah, I did. I mentioned that was 7C there. Bob?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, just to bring you up a little bit on what we're doing on the utility system issues. We're plugging away on several items that go over nice enough to give some observations that work on about 5 things several weeks ago, actually, or a couple months ago, actually. But I guess the thing that we have pretty much, I believe, kind of resolved is, that's obviously your decision, but there's a question of the golf course, how we're going to supply water to the golf course, and it's very clear to us that the best thing to do with the golf course right now is to continue supplying them potable water. And the reason is you've got the capacity at the water plant supplying the golf course. They use about 3% of your water that the city consumes, at least did in the last year, and it's not costing you any additional money with the exception of some power and chemicals. And that runs about $17,000 a year if you look at the last 12 months. So it's much less expensive to do that than to try to install a new pump on the river. If you have to put a new pump, there's all kinds of environmental regulations that we've run into and other projects actually on the Etowah River. You have to get Corps permits, Fish and Wildlife concurrence. It could possibly be done, but it would be a long and kind of arduous task. And hopefully within a couple of years you can get the reclaimed water system working back again at your water reclamation plant. And I think that's the ultimate goal. But even from the wastewater plant, water reclamation plant, there's still costs involved. That's not free because you still got to pump that water uphill to get it there. But it'll probably be cheaper in the long run than potable water. Sure will. But not real. So that's the golf course. That's our recommendation. But any thoughts or questions on that? I've got a kind of write up on this. We'll get to everybody pretty quick.
Yeah, just 2 questions. One, if we put the pump in the Etowah River, my understanding is we couldn't take out enough water anyway.
Not under an agricultural permit.
Yeah, we'd have to supplement it somehow.
Well, you could, theoretically, the state could give you a permit to pump the water out of the river. It would have to be a regular water withdrawal process. And that would probably be difficult to get from the state because of water wars. Alabama would probably object to it.
To go beyond
100,000
gallons a day.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And a lot of the summer months, the golf course is using
300,000 gallons a day, and sometimes more.
And the other question is, if we had to purchase that water, say we were able to not have a water treatment plant or waste plant, we're purchasing that water would cost us, what, about $75,000 a year?
I haven't run those numbers, but whatever arrangement you could make with the new owner of the water supply, with Cherokee County or somebody else. I mean, and that might be something that could be negotiated in the deal. I mean, you just have to pay their rate, which they're saying they're going to charge, what, $2.25 per thousand. And I've got the actual number of gallons that the golf course uses, but we can run those numbers.
I think that's around $3 million a month. No, yeah, $3 million a month average. So,
I'll get you the numbers. That would be a consideration long term. You want to cover that any kind of deal that you make with anybody, the authority or something. Sure. Yes.
Yes. I want to make sure I heard you right. You said $17,000 a year.
Yes,
right?
Correct.
Because our original figure that we heard from someone was $17,000 a month.
I don't know where that came from. That may have been the fact that they were just pricing it at your regular retail rate. That's possible.
That makes a huge amount of difference from what we would be saying.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Any other thing about Next. Okay. I know that. I'll get some Mayor. Keep going. All right. Infiltration. We're looking at 5 things. Golf course, I think, is, in my mind, pretty much settled. You guys and gals have to make a final decision what you would do. We're looking at ionizing. Hopefully, we'll have some meters installed in the next week or two. It's kind of been difficult, frankly. We have some problems with your operations guys to be willing to help us out install those meters. Excuse me. Yes, sir. They're not cooperating? No. Right. I mean, just to be honest, no.
Where do you stand on installing the meters at all?
I've asked Cherokee County if they would help us out. They've given us a price per crew hour, and I'm hoping to get an answer from them shortly. We're going to have to hire somebody outside to do it, unless the city feels like they want to go to war with the operations contract.
Yeah, we'll talk about that afterwards.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay. All right. The industrial pretreatment kind of goes hand in hand with the infiltration study. The data we have shows your plant is getting a higher strength wastewater than about anybody else around, and I really don't think that's. I'm not convinced that's the case, and I'm looking at several things that are going on. I'm not sure the sampling we're getting at the plant is necessarily giving us the totally right numbers. We're working on that. I have been told, and I don't know this for a fact, that there's grease issues that maybe the city needs to deal with that have been an issue in the past. Don't know all about that, but that's something we need to talk about. And the fact is, grease causes about 80% of the sanitary sewer overflows nationally in sewer systems. So if there's some issues we can deal with on grease trap, something that's I'm talking about. Operations, I am working with the operations contractor, looking at all the things they're doing best I can, and that's something we probably need to talk about some way, perhaps the mayor and the city manager. And then the corrective action plan, which again something we're going to at some point get to the state, get to the not too distant future, and we're plugging away on that too. So that's kind of issues.
Anybody have any questions at this point?
I just want to see, is there a way we could get a copy, because 2 or 3 of us are on this water committee, and I'd like to have kind of a synopsis of what you just said. I don't see it in my...
Yes, sir. I will get you that. Yes, I'll do that. And I should have done it.
My question is, you say the operational people here at the water plant are not cooperating. is this because you're trying to hire them independent of the city, or is this, I mean, it seems like we're paying them a lot of money to run our water and sewer plants, and
Well, I guess their position is it's not something that they should have to do under their contract, so they want to do it.
well, you know, we can always go out for bids on the contract.
Contract's up in a year.
Well, we don't have, it doesn't have to be up in a year. We can go out for bids now, and maybe we should.
Any other comments, questions? Well, just keep at it, Bob.
I mean, to create controversy.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Under the mayor's report, we had talked, I believe at our meeting on Tuesday when we discussed the water billing problems, that I would basically appoint a committee to take a look at this situation and try to define what maybe this committee would do, among other things. And what I would like to do is to make sure that the committee would be pretty much not simply an appeals committee for someone who has an obvious water problem that maybe they didn't get resolved through the normal channels. But I would hope that this committee would look at the problems, define what the varied problems may be, and to establish a policy to address those problems. I think we have to have a standard policy so that when we have someone whose usage just went sky high for no reason at all, and it's very obvious from years of history that something's wrong, that there's been something in there that's multiplied this usage when there hasn't been a leak, there's no identifiable leak, then, we need to provide some mechanism by which it's not just like a leak adjustment or something, some relief there. And I would hope that this committee would actually do just that, would be able to set a policy and apply that policy in similar cases, so that everybody would always be treated the same. Okay? We don't want this one to have a certain adjustment, this one have a different adjustment for the same problem. I mean, it needs to be the same. We need to standardize this adjustment process so that really everybody is treated fairly, and that each adjustment process is uniformly applied. I would also want this group this committee to actually review our leak adjustment policy, and once you read that, you'll want to change it because it's rather complicated. And I'm not even sure we are going by what it says today. I'm pretty sure we're not, as a matter of fact. The policy that I had is dated 2002 that I passed out on Tuesday. And I think that there's some things in there that certainly have been changed, and yet there's some applications that are not being, I guess, equally applied. At least it appears that way to me. So I think we need to have the committee take a look at the possibility of revising this leak adjustment policy to something more simple that not only the citizens can understand, but that we can understand. So it's really going to have to be pretty simple how to do that. Do you think?
The one thing that I read the policy that you handed out, and I too was confused with it. But the one thing that I didn't know, and I'm sure probably the majority of our citizens didn't know, that if you want to pressure wash your house, you can call the city and have them read the meter before and then read the meter after, and then they'll just charge you that water rate and not the sewer rate. same applies to swimming pools, filling swimming pools. But, I mean, I wasn't aware of that, and I see people pressure washing too in Call City.
So I would like to ask that Amelia, Bob, and John function in that capacity as this committee, and of course I know you're going to have to kind of feel your way through the dark initially, because as every one of you know, there are some of these problems that just seem to have no reason, and so how do you develop a policy to apply to something like that? Well, that's the reason y'all get paid the big bucks here, and I appreciate it. I would ask that, I would certainly like to sit in on whatever meetings that we have and observe as an ex officio member, but I'd like for you to handle that and to if at all possible, to expedite. As you know, it's somewhat of an emergency. I think that we need to move forward with this, and so let's go ahead and try to do that. So that's all that I have. Does anyone have any other comments on that or anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion. We have an executive session to discuss real estate and potential litigation. Have a motion. Second. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Executive session.
You shoot yourself in the head?
They have these trees in the morning. I don't know what in there Monday. We'll be knocking another car.